My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am here with Jessie Wong, who is an energy medicine practitioner and creator of plasma. So for as long as Jessie can remember, she's always been a passionate person to understand the intricate nature of the world that we live in, from the quantum building blocks of our biology to the cosmic grace of consciousness and how we as humans interface with this reality. With a background in human genetics and molecular pathology, biomedical science, as well as 10 years of experience as a public health professional, the truth seeker within led Jessie to keep pushing the boundaries of understanding by deprogramming the constructs she had stepped into. Jessie now has embraced the path towards bioenergetic medicine, and it is a passion of hers to share this with the world. And what we have deemed as metaphysical does in fact have a scientific explanation. That spiritual phenomenon and scientific explanation are not mutually exclusive, but there is actually a bridge between the seen and the unseen. She believes that spirit and science are not mutually exclusive. So a big welcome to the show, Jessie.
Thank you, Catherine. So good to be here.
So the first question that's popped into my head, as you said, you describe you're the creator of plasma. What does that mean without going too in depth into it? We were just talking about this before you started, but what does that mean?
Well, Plasma is the platform where I share all of the information about the bioenergetic medicine, mostly to do with biofield tuning, but also there's an education component that educates people a little bit more about, through my many, many years of learning and understanding the nature of reality through a relatively scientific, logical lens that merges spirit and science into one. And I chose plasma because plasma is actually the fourth state of matter, and it's an interface between, you could say, consciousness and physical matter. And in a way, that is something that I want to bring to the world, that there can be a bridge between the seen and unseen. So that's why I decided to call it plasma.
Which is
And
beautiful.
yeah, it's the platform which I share all of that stuff and post different sessions that we do, but we'll get into that later.
And I always get this wrong, but it's bioplasmic tuning you do, isn't it?
Right. So it's actually, bioplasmic tuning is a mixture of biofield tuning and a number of different energy medicine practices that I've cultivated over about 10 years, sort of like intuitively brought together. But, for the sake of explaining that, we'll just call it biofield tuning, which was actually originally created by Eileen McCusick.
Yeah. And for our listeners who don't know what that is, I know what it is because I've had many sessions with you. But do you want to explain to people what biofield tuning actually is?
Sure. So it is going to be a slightly long explanation, right?
That's
But
okay.
bear with me. So it goes off the premise that we all have a biofield, right? And this biofield is also known as our aura, or like the human energy field. And it actually extends about 5 or 6 feet from our bodies. And it's shaped like a torus, like like an apple, sort of like with a donut in it. Now, this torus.
Beautiful.
Memories are closer to like rings of a tree. Now, the way that she discovered this is actually a pretty cool story. So, you know what a tuning fork is?
Yes.
Right? Actually, I'll show you. This is a tuning fork.
This is why I have video now, everybody, so we can actually get visuals.
Exactly. So she was playing around with the tuning forks around the body, which which has actually been used in medicine for quite a while, but quite close to the body and just doing massage on a client. And then she heard a loud sound across the room. So she walked across the room to go check it out. And then as she walked back towards the client, she activated the fork and was just walking back towards the client. But then at 6 feet from the client, she could feel a change in the sound of the fork and a change in the vibration in her hand, and was like, whoa, what is this? And so she actually found the edge of the field through the tuning fork. And so after that, she continued to essentially try to map this and figure out what it is, what it contains. And so she found that it stores our memories as if it's our own personal cloud. But she also found that it stores, it has an anatomy whereby the same types of emotions are always held in the same places, right? So also that this contains our essential life force that needs to be constantly flowing and moving. But if we experience trauma or pain or unexpressed or unprocessed emotions, it can manifest as a stuck pocket of tension in the field, which over time builds up and downstream can sort of block the energy coming through and cause physical ill health, right? And so if there's an issue that we experienced as a young child, so I'll give you an example, like let's say we were really young and we were told to be seen and not heard, or we were constantly shut down for speaking our truth, or, you know, the adults would really not encourage us to ever speak, and that would continue. So if that pattern continued, then the energy of stagnancy would build up there, and you might end up having like a sore throat or be really prone to losing your voice. But if this continues over a really long period of time, then it could go into more severe issues like thyroid issues or throat cancer, you know, over a very extended period of time. But yeah, so she found that there was a direct correlation between the flow through our field and any kind of emotional, physical, or mental ill health or well-being that a human experiences and so you can use the tuning forks to essentially bring clarity to the incoherence that is recorded in your field. And it also then brings back this is sort of part of your own experience, right? So in the way that shamans do soul retrieval, if parts of yourself or your inner child is sort of stuck out in the field, you're not actually utilizing all of that and coming as a whole human being, because parts of yourself are stuck in the past. And so in a way, the tuning forks can essentially break up those stuck pockets of tension, and you can literally drag it back into center and like drop it back in so that you regain that energy back and redistribute it properly back into flow. And so and in that process, you know, healing takes place.
Yeah. And I think the coolest thing is from working with you personally, Jessie, is that you can do it without the person even being in the room with you because of the quantum connections and the quantum entanglement and all the fun things with the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And, you know, most recent, I'll share my story. So Jessie runs this beautiful offering every month called Tuning Tribe. And she was working on our feet the last time, whenever we were recording this, but the last time I worked with her. And I remember she was clearing this energy and you can feel it in your body. It's amazing that just being connected into the energy, you can feel this shift from the tuning forks. And actually, there was one time after that we worked together too, and it was crazy. But and anyway, and then she got to, I think it was the right foot, and that's the last thing I remember. And I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I was like, I feel amazing. I don't know what happened. And I was panicking because I was like, why are my earbuds in my head? And why is my phone near me? And then I was like, because you can, when your body goes into that really deep healing state, you can, go to sleep because that's the easiest way for your subconscious to let go of those patterns and let it happen. But then the time after that, when you were shifting me, because was unwell, I had like a lot of stuff stuck in my lungs. You were like, hey, can you feel this? And I was like, what is going on with my hip? You're like, okay, great. That is what I'm feeling too. And you can feel the vibrations through the connection through the field. And it's so uncanny to think of that we can, we were hours apart in terms of where we were physically, but then energetically we were together in this space that you created, this beautiful container.
Yeah. So the way you can think of that is connection through the ether, right? And if you think about the ether as a resonance field, that is the underlying structure that the entire universe is built upon. And plasma is what flows along that structure. But when you tap into the underlying structure that is all connected in this interconnected web, it doesn't matter about space. It doesn't matter about time. You could even do a session on someone and they might not have time to listen to it. And you can either record it or not. But even if you don't, and then someone a few hours later could lie down and essentially download that session and be like, okay, I'm ready to experience it now. And for the next hour, they will experience what is happening that I did on them an hour ago. And so when there's this resonance field, essentially we're all tuning into the etheric connected radio station or resonance field, which is how we all connect together or that we do distance sessions. And then so once I tap into that, it's as if the person is in the room with me and I can feel the edge of their field. I can feel the different constructs that are held in their field, how old they were when they experienced certain things. Yeah, it's fascinating. It blows my mind.
And I love you brought up the thing about time, because time is such a construct that humans have created. But at the same
Mm,
time, I find it similar to if I channel for someone or do a remote healing session, like you said, and when they listen to it, it'll take place rather than when you're doing it. And it's really interesting to think of it that way. So, I always start with the thing like this information's for right here, right now, when you're listening to it, because it can change and shift, once you get outside that space that you've created. So, when that person is tuning in, and I always believe too that until it's actually spoken and heard by the person that's field it needs to be in, it's not going to
mm.
integrate fully too.
Yeah, totally. Totally. But it's interesting because sometimes, when you have booked a session in, right? Sometimes the energies even start working on you
Yeah.
before you've even gone to see the person. So sometimes it works for you, sometimes it works against you. But I mean, everything's here for us, right? One way or another. But yeah, time, it's an interesting thing. And on the energetic level, it's not biased. Let's put it that way.
No, and
Yeah.
it's so true, because sometimes I have clients book in and then I'll start getting, like, my spiritual mentor called it the pre-channel, like the
Mm,
pre-download, and all of a sudden you're going do 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 do, and I'm like, what? I don't have them booked in for another 3 or 4 days, like, and then you slowly get this kind of thing that by the time you get to the session, you know exactly what's going to come, because
totally.
it's the energy's already been engaged. And I guess as soon as someone books in, there's that energy exchange is ready, right? Because they've gone, yeah, I'm coming to see you. And then it's like the universe has gone, let's open up the pathways between the two and start to get this flowing so we can get some shift happening here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess that was my next question. How have you found that science has come in or coming more? Well, I find personally that science is coming more or catching up to what we've all kind of known, working with energy and working as healers, etc. What has been something exciting that you've witnessed start to come into play, or that you've noticed working with the tuning forks, with fields, biofields, etc.?
Yeah. So one of the things, so I know from my bio, you heard that I have a scientific background, right? But a deep desire to understand the truth, essentially. And I don't know why. I mean, we know why on one level, but why would science ever be separate from spirit? It blows my mind, like true observable science, right? And one of the amazing things about biofield tuning is that there is no leap in logic, right? So it makes sense. We understand that sound actually has the ability to move bioplasma, right? And bioplasma, essentially in our field, which records our memories, which is our life force, is actually organic electricity, right? And every time electricity flows, there will be a magnetic field. And this electromagnetic field is actually what our aura is. And then stagnant energy in there, like everything has a scientific explanation. So in the same way that a needle reads a record on like those old school music recorders, the fork can pick up on the distortions and read the field in the same way. And so it's like it is an energy medicine, but everything is grounded in science and logic. And I just love that it's coming out a lot more and people are starting to understand it. But if you pull it back, I like to use sort of what's the word, like analogies for people, sort of like the rings of the tree or the needle on the record.
I like
But
the rings of the tree, because the rings of the
yeah,
tree, because each ring of the tree has information about that person's year of life,
exactly.
which
It's the
makes me,
same.
which makes me think of how you describe that each person's year of living is like outside the field. So very similar to those rings of trees.
Exactly. And it's equidistant,
Yeah.
right? So if you're 40 years old, edge of your field will hold the memories from when you were born, and exactly halfway between the edge and you will hold the memories you were when you were 20, right? So another thing to say is that like in the same way that music as a frequency can make you feel really good, we're just essentially breaking this down into a bit more of a nitty gritty, but it's the same concept, right? Or like why dancing does, because we're getting to have energy move and bring back to center. And it's all very logical and scientific to me. And actually, the more we understand science, the more that we can see spirit comes through in just like the fascinating intricacy of how everything comes together. And yeah, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. One of the things that I do look out for is that there are, so, I'm always the contrarian here, but nowadays with like frequency medicine and stuff, there is a lot of new technologies and stuff coming out. But in my experience, I have found, and also in conversations with a really amazing lady called Judith Collins, who's have a lot of wisdom because she can actually see the aura, that there is actually difference between digitally induced sound and analog
Mm.
induced sound. And digital sort of frequencies actually exist at a different angle, in a sense, to analog frequencies. So they can still be useful. But so when I say analog, I mean like an actual sound of music or vibration crystal, right? As opposed to like
Rather than
digitally.
synthesized. Yep.
Exactly. And so it will still have a positive effect, but it's not going to be as powerful and as
Mm.
biologically, organically coherent as an analog sound, like a tuning fork or bells or drums or crystal or something that actually creates a vibration in the field.
Yeah, which is so interesting because it makes me think of, synthetic replacements for things. Like they'll be like, oh, you don't have to smell a rose. You can get the synthetic version of a rose, and it does
Yeah.
nowhere near the same level of healing that it would be smelling an actual rose in your hand or having like a rose oil that's been properly distilled from rose petals, so it
Yeah.
has that different frequency and different characteristics, which is exactly what you were sharing.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. You might have, so what's it got a synthetic rose? They probably try to recreate the smell,
Mm.
right? But the healing properties of a rose isn't just the smell, right? So the
It's the
smell, it might
frequency.
stimulate different things in our endocrine or hormonal system, but it also has chemical properties that interact with chemicals in our blood. Then there's a frequency that comes with it as well. And then there's also the spirit of the plant. So there's all these different layers, right, that you can't just synthesize, and that actually how it exists organically in nature is so amazing, right? It's just like the science, but it's like spirit coming through when you actually look into um the deeper you go, the more
I
fascinated
know.
I
It's
am.
like sacred geometry, like the amount of sacred geometry that's through plants and shells and
Exactly.
pine cones and things like that. And it's just divine perfection. Like, how do you can't even imagine creating that, let alone it's there in front of you in your hand, when you're looking at it. So, I fully understand what you mean, where you can see spirit coming through in the science, because how else would a lot of these phenomena even be created without that level of, I like saying magic, that level of wonder and awe and amazing blessings that are
Yeah,
all around us all the time.
yeah, for sure.
And I know we often talk about together boundaries and high vibrations and all these things like that, because these are terms that get thrown around and misused quite a lot.
Mm,
Especially I know boundaries is something I talk about a lot with people, because it's like you can talk about doing boundaries, but we're all energetic beings. It doesn't matter. You're going to still be emerged with, other energies. If you walk into a room,
mm.
yes, you might have these shields that you put up, but at the same time, you're still in that energy. So, what is your interpretation on that, Jessie, in terms of high vibration and protection and shields and all these things?
Yeah, wow, I can talk about this a lot. Okay, so we'll start with the high vibration thing. I understand, right? And it's a really common thing that we speak about in the New Age community, and I think it's by no fault of anyone's own. It's just the language that we have been introduced to and that we're used to, right? And definitely used that before. And there's this common thing where people are like, oh, we need to raise our vibration, raise our vibration. And I understand what they're saying because there's a lot of work out there where, there's like the scale of different emotions and like where they sit. And so people have,
Map
taken
of
that into account.
consciousness? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right. And so I understand what they're saying in terms of like the more elating, positive, kind of good feeling emotions. And then, like the lower negative kind of like that's what they say is high and low. Let me put it to you this way. Like some of the most beautiful sounds in the world are deep, like the earth. didgeridoo, right? The sounds that come from a whale are extremely low and they're beautiful. So what it is that we're actually trying to capture here is it's not about high or low, it's about clarity and about coherence, right? So we have our field and it's full of like, childhood traumas or our triggers and stuff. It's actually causing incoherence in your field that distorts the signal. So it's like if light was trying to come through and you've got all of this distortion, it's going to come through as this incoherent, distorted noise. But what we actually want is to actually bring clarity so that it's clear and it's coherent, and so that the flow of electricity through your field, through your body is efficient and it's fast and it's clear. And so when you have a clear field, it's sort of like if your field, for example, has this smudge on it, right? This is how you see the whole world. It's like if your sunglasses had a smudge of it, then everything you look at is going to have this smudge in it. But it's actually not to do with the outside. You just have like a smudge on your field. So you want to bring clarity and clearness to it so that you can pull in the light so that's clear and so that you can flow in harmony, essentially, rather than having these roadblocks. And with that flows on to the next thing about putting up these walls and all that kind of stuff, which is totally fair enough, especially when you're sort of awakening to yourself and realizing that you're an empath and that's why you can feel everything and anything around you, and that you're so sensitive. But I guarantee you, and I think I've been through this, you've been through this, we've all been through that journey. You want to put up those walls, block out that bad energy and stuff, but I guarantee you it will exhaust you. Because you think about if you went into a crowd and you're constantly putting up these walls, you're also constantly pushing people away, and it creates a lot of resistance and it takes a lot of energy to do that. So instead, what I say to people and what we talk about in biofield tuning is that if you have a clear field and that you're not sticky, then these sticky things or, energies you want to avoid, they just pass through you, or you're like so slippery that they don't even stick to you because there's nothing to stick to because you're so clear and slippery. And so it actually takes a lot less energy. That if you actually have worked on clearing your field, then you can still have an open heart and, love and welcome people without having to block them out. And it takes a lot less energy. And I think that is your best protection to be safe. A strong, coherent, bright, slippery, juicy field,
I love it because I say to bring in a rainbow of color. So it's just like almost just, and then whatever color you need will kind of then come into play because it's whatever, your aura needs to keep itself slippery and keep itself clear. So then that will just like, oh, I don't really want that. I feel like the yellow needs to come in. So it's just going to slowly dissolve that and push that back out because that's not something for me. So that's how I work with it with my clients. But I like when you were sharing that, I just saw like these really slippery bubble.
Yeah.
But like things can come in a bubble, right? Like, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but if I don't want you, it's just going to pop back out. So,
Yeah. Or it just passes through you, it doesn't have to stick to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a good point because so often people will say, put up your boundaries, put up your boundaries. But really, for me, boundaries is about, knowing yourself so well that you can just say no, or you can say, that's not for me. Whereas the boundaries that they talk about in the new age spiritual world is that, energetically, you've got to block all these people out. It's like, well, no, they came into your life for a reason. They were there for a reason. You have to give the gratitude with that. And then, like you said, let it pass through and let it go.
Yeah. By all means, don't mistake what I'm saying for having a leaky field, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. And like, no leakiness. We don't want no leakiness, right? Boundaries is a thing. But it's more about like, and in some cases, like fortify your field for sure, fortify it. But that is a very different energy from blocking, right? Fortification and like fully occupying your entire presence. And as well as like, there's a lot of stuff where people like, oh, try to exit your body and you're like everywhere else except here, right?
Oh gosh, how
But
draining.
if you
Oh gosh.
fully,
Even I'm like, oh.
every part, right? Because, nature abhors a vacuum. So if you're gone, like, it wants to get filled. But if you fully occupy your field and you have a full spectrum of awareness of your body and your energy field, that is going to be the most fortified field that you can have, right? And sometimes there are situations where you do need to kind of like fortify and bring back to center. It doesn't mean just like, willy-nilly spread it out all the time, but it's just like a little shift in thinking that I think can go a long way.
Yeah, and it's that's such a beautiful reminder of perception, right? It's your perception of
Yeah.
how, and the intention, because the intention of fortifying your field. So I am strong, and I'm going to have this slippery field and people just slip off or just move through, versus I'm putting up these walls and these boundaries and like keeping people that I don't want there. It's almost like subconsciously going to attract those people too, right?
Hmm.
Because you're putting out the energy of like, I don't want that energy. So the universe will go, huh,
Mm.
opposites, let's
Yeah.
pull that in, so then they are facing that energy.
Yeah. It's like physics though, right? If you think about like a car
Like,
crashing
yeah,
into a tree, right?
yeah.
The car's got hard, it's hard, it's get destroyed. But if you have a bubble or a balloon crashing to a tree, it just sort of bounces off. It absorbs it, bounces off, and it's on its merry way. See, it's science. It's really science.
Clearly us all having bubbles around us is science. I love it, Jessie.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's so funny, but because when I started channeling for people, I got shown everyone in boxes. People kept putting themselves in boxes and keep restricting, even just boxes as in terms of like labels and titles and all that sort of thing. And then the answer that spirit came back with was that we all need to be in bubbles. That was their
Wow,
answer. Yes, that's why I was
yeah,
like,
nice.
yeah, because they were saying, you can stretch a bubble if you want to and let more in, or you can pull it back in and keep it closer to you if you feel you want to as well. But like you
Mm,
said, now it makes more sense. This is like, 4 years later, the full circle here. And it's like, oh, okay, we want the bubbles so everything can slip out, like slip away
mm,
or just come in and keep moving through. And whereas a box is more restrictive, right? And when we put
mhm.
boundaries up, or the idea of walls, it can be really restrictive. And if anyone's done like heart wall clearing, it takes so long to pull those walls back down. And there's so much energy to pull
Mm,
it back down, and a lot of healing that needs to happen in order to let those
yeah.
walls come back out again.
Yeah. Speaking of the heart wall, I thought it might be a nice segue to actually talk about the different constructs and the different emotions held in the field, because there
Yes.
is a heart wall and it sits about, let's say, 12 centimeters out from the front of your heart. And it actually can have a physical mass, and you can use the tuning forks to clear that. And a lot of the times when we have these experiences that are held in the field, we use these forks that Eileen Cusick created because they are double steel reinforced forks, because she was finding that using sort of the regular forks that were being produced, they were starting to split and fracture, and they will start to buzz, because when we're combing back in, we're actually hitting pockets of like a physical mass, that it actually has a mass, right? So yeah, but I'll talk about like the different areas that
Yeah.
represent different things. So when she mapped this biofield anatomy, and she found that, different emotions were stored in different places. So for example, it kind of does follow the chakra system very much so. So like our feet, right? The energy in our feet tend to hold the imprint of our direction in life, because our feet is what takes us places. Right. And which is what we did that session on the feet,
When
but
I fell
that's
asleep.
but it's so linked to your birth story. So whether you were
Mm,
cesarean, whether you got pulled out, natural birth, all
mm.
this kind of stuff, because those are literally the first steps that you took in this world. And was it like really difficult? Was it, full of anxiety? And that will actually carry on for the rest of your life until you clear that, right? Because, it's repetitive. And until we clear that, that's
Which
why we experience the same relationships, the same mistakes, the same issues
Which,
until we
yeah. And that makes
bring
so much
clarity.
sense why I fell asleep, because I had quite a traumatic birth story. And yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
So yeah.
go.
Yeah. So and then you keep going through the field. So you go your feet and then
Yeah, sure. So different things. Okay, so the knees, I actually like wrote this little extract about the knees, but the knees are really interesting. So if your feet are in a way unconsciously guiding you towards your purpose, right? Depending on whether you're locked in with that or not, your knees hold the energy of your ability to take action on that purpose or on that direction. And the right knee holds a lot of energy related to feeling blocked moving forwards, but the left knee is more about things that you need to let go of that are holding you back. So they all have different, things that are held there. And it's really fascinating. And same with like, your sacral, it's to do with the back of your sacral. It's like receiving pleasure, receiving money. The front is linked to your creativity and your expression and your sexuality and your intimate relationships. But what the amazing thing is that she also found certain constructs in the field. So an example is that there's this big bubble about like a meter out on the right-hand side, and this is called the father field. And on the left is the mother field. And this actually holds the energetic information of your entire relationship with your mother or your father and what kind of person they were like. And so you can imagine that that's sitting right next to your heart and your solar plexus, so close to your body, carried with you all the time, which makes sense, right? How much influence do our parents have, whether they're good or bad relationships? They're sitting so close to our heart and solar plexus and sense of self. And there's amazing things that can happen. So when you clear this and bring clarity to that field, 9 times out of 10, the next day, the parents will call because they can feel the shift that's taken place, between you and they might
or
not consciously know.
during the session. It's amazing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
Totally.
why have I got a missed call from my parents? Oh, we were
Yeah.
just clearing that. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. There's sort of like a little bubble here off the left shoulder, which holds grief and sadness. And so there's a lot of different things, like over here, frustration and anger. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. There's also a little construct out the front of your knee, about 15 centimeters out the front of your knee. So like if you're facing forwards, in front of the knees, and it's called the greener pastures thinking. And that is when you are constantly looking for your happiness in the future. And you won't be happy until this thing happens, until you graduate, until you get your car, until you have enough money. And you're never actually
You're
in the present.
conditioning it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the grass is always greener on the other side, and you can actually detect this construct here above the knee that can hold a bunch of energy there if that's if you have that tendency to sort of constantly project your happiness into the future and never in the here and now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
fascinating stuff. And it could go on and on and on, right? But there's a whole there's a whole system that's been created that has been continuously repeated. And this is the same across, several thousands of different people. That's the underlying structure of how we store these different experiences in our life.
I love it. I love it so much. I just
Me
love that.
too.
Yeah. And there's just such a beautiful map in our biofield, in our aura, that, can help us, just with tuning forks. Like, you think you're bringing in this frequency and these vibrations, and it's enough to help shift it on so many levels, not just the emotional level, but, clearing out trauma that's stuck, clearing out past lives, clearing out relationship energy. Like, it's all just coming through knowing, first of all, obviously where to find that information in the auric field, but then also being able to shift it through your combing and things like that. And from having experienced it myself, it is very impactful. And I know one of our last big sessions together, when we were trying to pull the ancestral energy that we had the hold
Mm,
on me, it was such a powerful session, and it
mm,
was like, to be in that energy container with you, it's really amazing. And if people are like, what are they talking about? You just have to experience it, like, honestly, you have to experience it, because it's just one of those things that until you're aware of it or until you've had it done to you, it's really hard to explain how you can feel the vibrations so much. I
mm.
guess,
Yeah, I tried. I tried
yeah,
to.
image
It's
I'm
like
kind of,
pages and
the image
pages of explanation.
image I'm getting is like, if you go to a concert and they've got the bass happening and you can feel the vibrations
Totally.
of the bass, that is
Mhm.
what it's like. But not with the doof doof doof. It's not that heavy. It's just
Yeah.
it's not that extreme. And as we start to finish our time together, Jessie, I know we could talk about so many other topics, but
Yeah.
if there's one thing you could shift or change in the world, what would it be?
Yeah. So I didn't know, is this going to be like a realistic answer or like a non-realistic answer? I guess it comes down to, so, there's this, a lot of the time people quote this saying from the Bible that says money is the root of all evil, right? Which is actually a misquote, but I just want to stand corrected. And I would say that confusion is actually the root of all evil, because when we have confusion, because of distortion, that is when people are confused. They don't have access to the truth. They provide tacit consent. And, we live in this state of control and fear. Whereas if there was clarity and the truth was known, then people can go and make their mistakes, and they can, at least they know what they're eating is bad for them, and they're just choosing to do that. At least they know what they're doing. It might not be great, but they're choosing to do that. That's their free will. That's totally fine. But if they had access to clarity of the truth, then I think that the world would be a very different place. And I think in the state of the world now, there is no real, it's going to be quite difficult to rely 100% on an external trying to bring that truth to you. And I think the best way we can accrete that into our, into our being and know what the truth is, not thinking what the truth is, but when you know it in your body, you have to start by clearing that so that you know that when information comes through, it's clear and it's grounded and you can feel it, and it's not getting distorted on the way down, or the messages aren't getting distorted through through a distorted field on its way to you.
Yeah. And
So,
that's when you
I mean,
can
how
really,
realistic that is, I don't know.
yeah, but that's when you can truly tap into your own intuition and own discernment. And then you can use your truth, your true truth for you to decide whether or not that is a truth or not a truth too. So, this is where that power of having that clarity comes in, because when you know yourself so well and have that clear field, like you were saying, it allows you to be more discerning, and it allows you to go, okay, this doesn't align with me, and I can say no. Like, rather than what you said, which is all the confusion and the lack of transparency. That's what I would like to describe it as.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. A lack of clarity.
And lack of clarity.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And where if people want to come and work with you, Jessie, or want to come check out your tuning tribes or anything like that,
Mm.
how can they find you? What are the best ways?
Yeah, sure. So I think the best way to sort of like be up to date about what's happening and information is the newsletter. And I'll give the link to Catherine and she can drop it in the show notes. And you sign up to the newsletter, and each newsletter isn't just like an announcement, but there's always an educational component in there. So for example, if I'm doing a session on the knees, I'll always kind of talk about the knees, what it entails, and kind of educate people. And then I'll be announcing the different monthly sessions that I do, which are online calls where we all come together as a group session. And then, at a higher price point, you can work with me one-on-one, and you can contact me either through my website or my email, which we can also place below.
Yes.
But yeah, so you're welcome to just like get in touch with me directly. But yeah, the best way would be to sign up to the newsletter or check out the website, which is
Beautiful.
plasma.earth.
Yay! I'm so excited. This has been a big project that Jessie has been working on, making this website come to life. So it's very exciting.
Yeah.
So I will make sure all those details are in the show notes. And thank you so much, Jessie, for sharing the world of biofields and everything else that comes with that. And thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
Oh, you're most welcome. Such a pleasure, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.